Everything great in history has been built by people who believe that the future can be bigger than the past. I think one of the disturbing realities in Catholicism today is that most Catholics don't actually believe that the future can be bigger than the past. And that's tragic, because we have an enormous mission in the world. As human beings, we engage or disengage in everything we do. David just mentioned that, one of the things I do is I work as a business consultant, and I do that just 4 days a month. The rest of my time, I work at Dynamic Catholic. But for 4 days a month, I go out into some of the biggest businesses in the world, and I help them, particularly in the area of employee engagement. What do I help them with? Great. As human beings, we engage or disengage in everything we do. And of course, you go to work on Monday. Who's thinking about going to work next Monday? Who's not going to work next Monday? Who doesn't understand the question? Who's just too but lazy to put their hand up for anything? Okay. So you think about it at work, you've got some people who are highly engaged. They're massively engaged, they're 100% engaged. They're passionate, they're purposeful, 100% engaged. But then you've got a spectrum of engagement. What do you have? You've got a spectrum of engagement. So you've got people who are 85% engaged, and then you've got people who are 60% engaged, or 50% engaged, or 35%, or 15%. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you've got what I like to call the Q and S people. I call them Q and S people because they quit and stay. It's a problem, You say to these people, when did you quit? 16 years ago. They quit, but they don't tell anybody. They quit, but they keep showing up. And if you're at work and you've got people on your team who are quit and stay people, it's poisonous to work with those people. Yes or yes? Yeah, absolutely toxic to work with quit and stay people. And so what we discover is that the people we want in our life, we want the highly engaged people in our life. Now, yes, people engage or disengage at work, but people also engage or disengage in marriage. People engage or disengage in parenting. People engage or disengage in their health and well-being, in their personal finances, politically, environmentally, but also people engage or disengage at church. Yes or yes? And we got a lot of quit and stay people at church. Yes or yes? Yes, so they quit, but they keep showing up. For whatever reason, they're not really actively engaged, but they keep showing up. One of the things that we've been absolutely obsessed with at the Dynamic Catholic Institute for the last 5 years is working out what fundamentally is the difference between highly engaged Catholics and massively disengaged Catholics. Because if we don't know what the difference between highly engaged Catholics and disengaged Catholics is, we're not really going to be that effective at increasing the level of engagement of Catholics in America. And let's face it, the level of engagement of Catholics in America needs increasing. Yes or yes? Yeah. And so unless we can really work out what is the difference between highly engaged Catholics and disengaged Catholics, we're not going to be really able to engage people at a higher level. And today we're going to talk about game changers, the idea of game changers. Tomorrow, I'm going to talk about the 4 signs of a dynamic Catholic, which is really the fruit of the research. And the 4 things that these highly engaged Catholics have that make them different to moderately engaged or disengaged Catholics, and how we can drive those 4 things. But the reality is that the tide on Catholicism in America is going out. Okay, you have to be either completely naive or completely disconnected from reality not to recognize that. More than 70% of American Catholics don't come to church on Sunday. Only 17% of American Catholics come to church every Sunday. And that number gets smaller and smaller every year for the last 20 years. So the tide on Catholicism in America is going out. And business as usual isn't going to turn the tide. In fact, business as usual isn't even going to stem the tide. And so what we need is, we need some game changers. What do we need? Game changers. When we have big problems, our natural reaction is to look for big solutions to those big problems. And big solutions to big problems almost never work, because big solutions to big problems are normally complex solutions to big problems, and complex solutions almost never work. The key to a game changer is usually they're blindingly simple, okay? Blindingly simple game changers are, for example, a game changer, complete game changer for the music industry is what? The iPod. And as we look back on it, we think, yeah, that just sort of makes sense. It was just sort of a natural evolution, you know, that somebody sooner or later was going to come up with something like the iPod. Now, interestingly, Apple never should have invented the iPod. Who should have invented the iPod? You, yeah. Yeah, no, interestingly, Sony should have invented the iPod. Why? Because they owned all the patents to all the technology. Essentially, what Apple did was they took all of that technology and they put it in a cute little case, and were really effective at marketing that cute little case. And so game changers almost never come from where you expect them to come from. And they're usually fairly simple, and in hindsight, they seem blindingly obvious. Before we get into sort of the macro reality of game changers, though, we have to be reminded of one point. And to share that point with you, I share with you one of my favorite stories. I've been telling this story for almost 20 years now. But I think it drives right to the heart of what we can't afford to lose sight of. Once upon a time, there was a very successful businessman. And he'd had a long career as a business owner. And his business was enormous. And over the course of several years, things started to go wrong. He started to lose business. He started to lose market share. And all of his competitors, like piranhas, were just hoping for him to fail, waiting for him to fail, so that they could take over his market share and take over his customers. But the business owner, he really wanted to find a way to regenerate the life of his business. And so he decided that he would get all of his employees together one Saturday evening for a dinner. And at the dinner, he would present to them a plan for them to bring renewal to the business. And that Saturday morning, he was sitting at home, preparing for the dinner, preparing for his speech, and working on his speech. And his wife came into his study there at home and said, you know, honey, I got to go out shopping for a couple of hours, and can you look after, you know, our son? And the boy was 7 years old, and the wife, she went off shopping, and the husband, he kept working on his speech. But about 10 minutes later, there was a knock on the study door, and there appeared his son, 7 years old, and said, Dad, I'm bored. I got nothing to do. So the father half tried to amuse him by playing a game with him, while at the same time half trying to work on his speech for that evening. And that wasn't really working out. And finally, he realized that unless he could find some other way to amuse his child, he wasn't going to get his speech finished in time. And so he picked up a magazine and he flicked through the magazine, and he came to a large, brightly colored map of the world. And he ripped the map of the world out, and then he ripped it into many pieces, and he threw the pieces all over the living room floor. And he said to his son, son, if you can put the map of the world back together, I'll give you $20. Well, his son rushed around the living room picking up the pieces, and the father, he went back to his study to finish working on his speech, thinking that he had just bought himself 2, maybe 3 hours to finish writing his speech, because he knew his 7-year-old son had no idea what the map of the world looked like. But about 10 minutes later, there's another knock on the study door. And there stood the son, the boy, smiling with a completed puzzle. And the father looked at him in amazement, and he said to his son, son, how did you do it so quickly? The boy smiled. He said, you know, Dad, I had no idea what the map of the world looked like. But as I was picking up the pieces, I noticed that on the back, there was a picture of a man. So I put a piece of paper down, and I put the picture of the man together, because I knew what he looked like. And then I put another piece of paper on top, and I held them tight together, and I turned it over. And there was the world. Father smiled, and the boy continued. He said, you know, Dad, I figured if I got the man right, the world would be right. Our challenge to change the world, our challenge to transform the world, is always going to be a challenge to transform individuals. Our challenge to transform our Catholic schools, our challenge to transform Catholic education, our challenge to transform our parishes or our dioceses is always going to be a challenge to transform individuals. If we are not succeeding at transforming individuals, we will not succeed at transforming our parishes, our schools, our businesses, our dioceses, or any environment, which is a collection of these things. You know, the world, of course, is changing, constantly changing, but I don't ever meet somebody who says, the world's changing in a great way, the world's moving in a great direction. I'm really happy about the direction the world's moving in. I never meet people who have that opinion. I don't meet people who have that opinion. I meet people, parents, who are really concerned about the world that their children are going to grow up in. I meet a lot of grandparents who will say things like, to be honest, I try not to think about it because it just makes me too anxious when I think about what sort of world my grandchildren might grow up in. Unanimous conclusion is that the world needs changing. Yes or yes? And as it turns out is that our mission as Catholics, part of our mission as Catholics is to transform the world. Part of our mission as Catholics is to transform the world. Our mission as Catholics is not to sit quietly in a corner in a hyper-politically correct environment that is actually anti-Catholic, because the reality is that Christianity is not politically correct. We can't operate in that environment without crossing those lines. Christianity demands that we cross the political correct line all the time. And so we have to recognize that we cannot allow our culture to set the rules of engagement for Catholics. We cannot allow our culture to set the rules of engagement for Christians, because our mission is actually to change the world. But when I walk into church on Sunday, whether it's my own parish or a parish I'm visiting, when I walk into church on Sunday, I don't very often walk into church and think to myself, gee, this is a group of people that's about to change the world. Now, it might just be the parishes I'm joining, you know. May just be the parishes I'm visiting. Maybe if I visited your parish, as soon as I walked in the door on Sunday, I'd get the sense that, wow, this is a group of people that's about to change the world. And so the reality is that I don't think we're thinking about Catholicism in that sense anymore. The truth is, I think we're in maintenance mode. What mode are we in? We're in maintenance mode. We're more interested in surviving than we are in thriving. We spend most of our time thinking about how can we survive, and very, very little of our time thinking about how can we thrive. We're more interested in maintenance than we are in mission. And the reality is that we weren't given a maintenance schedule. We were given a mission by God. You know, and the other reality is that maintenance isn't inspiring to anybody. And people don't do anything until they're inspired. Mission is inspiring. You know, you come out with a bold mission, you come out with a bold initiative, people get excited. Why? Because they're inspired. And most people don't do anything until they're inspired. And so one of the things we've got to ask ourselves is, what are we doing to inspire modern Catholics? What are we doing to change the conversation both at church and outside of church? You think about Catholic education, you know, Catholic education will cost parents and parishes in America $10 billion this year. Catholic parents and parishes will spend $10 billion just at the grade school and the high school level of Catholic education. You know, if we closed all our schools and sent all those kids to public school, it cost the US government $18 billion to educate those same students. Maybe we should take a billboard. Just one in each city. This year, Catholic education will save the US taxpayer $18 billion. You're welcome. You see, the reality is that for 2,000 years, wherever you find Catholics, you find a group of people making phenomenal contributions to their local community, to their national community, to the international community. But in many ways, we've lost our story, or we've lost the ability to present our story in a meaningful, in an exciting, in an inspiring way to the modern culture. Is our past without blemish? Absolutely not. There have been some horrific moments in Catholic history. Why is that? Well, people bring their humanity to church. People bring their humanity to church. They don't bring the holiness to church. They bring their humanity to church. And when you get that much humanity all together, you're going to have some problems from time to time, right? 1.2 billion Catholics on the planet, almost 80 million Catholics in America now. You put all that humanity together, you're bound to have some problems. So the past hasn't been without blemish. And guess what? The future won't be without blemish. I can promise you some really big scandals in the future. Seriously. If we think the future is going to be without scandal, we're absolutely kidding ourselves. If we think that the answer is to make sure that the future is without scandal, then we'll be focusing our energies on the wrong thing, because there is going to be scandal in the future. There are no perfect churches. You find yourself a perfect church, you go ahead and join it, it won't be perfect anymore. And that's the essential dilemma. You know, you don't have a perfect parish, and I don't have a perfect parish. And I don't have a perfect parish because I belong to it. And you don't have a perfect parish because you belong to it. And that's the dilemma. But I do believe that we can build a bigger future. We can build a bigger future only if we start thinking about that bigger future. I think when you take people and you say, how do you feel about the direction the world's moving in? There's a great hesitancy around that question. At the same time, I think if you ask people, what do you think about the direction the church is moving in? I don't know that anybody would say unequivocally that the church is moving in a great direction. I don't know that anyone would say unequivocally that the church is moving towards a new vibrancy. And it isn't going to unless we really start to think about it on a different level. And the truth is, our non-Catholic Christian brothers and sisters, they're thinking about it on a different level. You know, I don't know what question dominates your parish. But you know, you go into these non-denominational evangelical churches and their questions are at a higher level. You think about it like this. What's the biggest Catholic church in your area? Think about that for a minute. What's the biggest Catholic church in your area? Wherever you've come from today, what's the biggest Catholic church in your area? And you've got that church in your mind now, okay? And you think about, why is that the biggest Catholic church in your area? Is it because it's got the most seats, or because it's got the most families, or, you know, because the most people show up to there on church on Sunday? Probably some combination of that. But the truth is that the biggest Catholic church in your area probably isn't a Catholic church at all. There are probably more Catholics attending a non-denominational evangelical church in your area every Sunday than the biggest Catholic church in your area. 52% of people who attend non-denominational churches are former Catholics. And it didn't just happen. They didn't just show up there one day. They had a strategy to win them there. Yes or yes? I went incognito to a conference last year for a non-denominational. Is that funny? I went incognito last year to a conference for leaders from non-denominational evangelical churches. Title of one of the main conferences was Catholic Youth, the Key to Your Church's Future. That's how they're thinking about it. But you know the question that they think about a lot, the question they talk about a lot? They ask themselves, how can we make our church the church in town that everybody's curious about? How can we make our church the church in town that everybody's curious about? That's how they start. That's their starting point. And I think that's a much different level of thinking than's taking place in most Catholic churches. They're thinking about, okay, how can we intrigue people? Because the reality is that Christianity, at its very roots, should be intriguing. First Christians, they had it going on. You know, people were fascinated with the first Christians. People were intrigued with the first Christians. Why? Well, they lived differently, they loved differently, and they worked differently. People were intrigued with the first Christians because they lived differently, they loved differently, and they worked differently. Now, if you think about modern Catholics, we don't really stand out. We don't really intrigue people. Why? Because we blend in. Why? Because we don't live differently, we don't love differently, and we don't work differently. Think about it like this. When was the last time you were just working, whatever your work is, you were just working, and somebody came up to you and said, I can tell you're a Catholic just by the way you work. But it should be that obvious, right? It should be that obvious. You see, when you go to a job interview, someone should see, oh, you're involved, you're a Catholic, you're involved in your church. The reality is out in the broader marketplace, people should want to hire you just because you're Catholic. Because the assumption should be that if you hire a Catholic, you get someone who will work harder than most, who will be more honest than most, who will give better service than most, who will get on with their colleagues better than most. That should be the assumption about Catholics, because we should be breeding a different level of human being. Yes or yes? And that should be evident in every single environment. But the truth is, it isn't. We don't work differently as Catholics. We don't live differently. We don't love differently. We don't work differently. We blend in. That's why we're not intriguing anybody. That's why everyone's writing us off for the future. Think about it. What's the divorce rate in America? 51%, give or take. Divorce rate amongst Catholics in America, 51%, give or take. We don't love differently. We don't live differently. We don't work differently. And until we start living, loving, and working differently, we're not actually going to intrigue people. And the truth is that Christianity, when it's really lived at the core, it is intriguing. The first Christians, they had that. People joining 100 at a time, 1,000 at a time. Why? They were fascinated. They were intrigued by the life of these people, by the lifestyle of these people. And so one of the questions we have to ask ourselves is, who does your life intrigue? Who does your life intrigue? Because if we're really living the stuff that Father gets up and reads about every Sunday, our lives should be intriguing to somebody. And part of that has to be countercultural. What does it have to be? Christianity at its very core is countercultural. People come to me all the time and they say, oh, my teenager, he's not interested in church, or he's not interested, or she's not interested, or they've got doubts, or they've got questions. Oh, I can't get them engaged. Question I always ask parents is, what's countercultural in your life? Because at the end of the day, we want our kids to be countercultural. Yes or yes? Yep. Yeah, why do we want them to be countercultural? Okay, well, just think about the college environment. What is college now? These kids going off to college, 4 years of drunkenness, 4 years of sexual promiscuity, 4 years of laziness, and then we give them a degree at the end of that, okay? Now, most parents either tell themselves one or two things. My kid's not like that. Or my kid won't get caught up in that, okay? And it's a nice fantasy to help you sleep at night, but it's just not the reality, because kids are getting caught up in it. Yes or yes? Okay, so when you look at how the average college person spends their college life, most parents would say, I don't want that for my kid. Yes or yes? Yep. So then when we take the question one step further and we ask the question, okay, well, if you don't want that for your kid, what do you want? It doesn't matter what you come up with. Whatever it is you come up with is countercultural. Yes or yes? And so when we really start thinking about it, we want what is countercultural for our kids. The question is, what in your life is countercultural? Where is the countercultural example in your life? At what point in your day, week, month do you step away from the culture and celebrate something that is in fact countercultural? Because unless we can give other people that countercultural example, A, we're not going to inspire them to live in a countercultural way, and B, we're not going to intrigue them, because it's the countercultural that is intriguing. Now, I want to make a point of clarification. It's easy to be countercultural. The important thing is to do it without looking like a freak. I'm not joking. It's funny, but I'm not joking. Because anyone can be countercultural and look like a freak. Yes or yes? But the reality is that Christianity, when it's really lived, is attractive. And so the key is to, yes, be countercultural, but to do it in a way that's really attractive. Because when you look at our culture and you look at the war against our faith in our culture, you look at the war against religion, you look at the war against organized religion. I don't know why they put Catholics in that category, Like I say to people, well, have you thought about becoming Catholic? They say, no, I don't like organized religion. I say, well, we're not organized. You should come on down. I don't know why we would be considered organized religion, but there's one truth that our culture can't actually get its hands on. If you think about all the ways our culture, all the ways the media attacks Christianity, attacks Catholicism, there's actually one thing they can't get their hands on, and that is this single truth. There's nothing more attractive than holiness. There's nothing. Nothing this world has to offer is more attractive to unholiness. And when you get a glimpse of it, it's overwhelming. It's really powerful. You know, and it's not like you need 300 really holy people in your parish to ignite the flame. Now, that's a lie. That's a myth we tell ourselves. You take one guy, put him in a little brown robe, drop him in the middle of Italy, in the Middle Ages, call him Francis, and bam, you got it. Still impacting people today. Yes or yes? You take one woman, 4 foot nothing, drop her down on the least Christian continent on the planet, call her Mother Teresa, and bam, you got it. Still impacting people today. That's how powerful holiness is. That's how potent holiness is. And it's always going to be the answer. I don't care what program you come up with. I don't care what strategy you come up with. Unless at the end of the day, it actually leads human beings as individuals to live more virtuous lives, to grow in holiness, in the long term, it's not going to be effective. It's not going to be really powerful. And so when we're thinking about game changers, we've got to ask ourselves, okay, let's find a game changer for our parish or for our school or for our individual spirituality or for our diocese or for the whole church. Let's find a game changer, okay? But it has to be something that will transform the lives of individuals, lead them to live more virtuous lives, lead them to live lives of holiness. Because the truth is, wherever you find holiness, the church always thrives. If the church isn't thriving, well, the reverse is true. If we want the church to thrive, it's always going to be linked to the life of virtue that we live, to the holiness that we're embracing in our own lives. So we're going to be looking for these game changers. You know, I came to my staff about 5 years ago, and I said to them, if we had to stop doing everything we're doing at the moment and do completely new things next year, the only qualifier is that what we did had to have the potential to be a game changer for the whole Catholic Church in America. What would we do? I said to them, I'll give you 100 days to think about it, and then we'll have a meeting. We'll spend 2 days talking about the ideas you come up with. First thing they said, oh, we can't stop doing what we're doing. I said, well, why not? They say it's good stuff. I mean, this is good stuff. And we're doing it, and it's good, and we should keep doing it. I said, that's great. Did you hear me say we're going to stop doing all the stuff we're doing? They said, well, you sort of said that. I said, if we had to stop doing all the things we're doing this year and do completely new things next year, the only qualification is they had to have the potential to be game changer for the whole Catholic Church in America. What would we do? It's a hypothetical. Give it some thought. You got 100 days. They came back 100 days later. We have about 20 people on staff at Dynamic Catholic Institute, and they came back 100 days later. We spent 2 days. They had 87 ideas. How many ideas did they have? 87 ideas. Every single one of which they thought was a game changer. Turned out 2 of them were actually game changers. 2 of them we actually took on. The first one, I got to admit, I was tremendously skeptical about. Tremendously skeptical about. One of the women on my staff, she said, well, I've got a game changer. I said, that's great. What's that? She said, I think we should give free books away at Christmas. I said, excuse me? She said, I think we should give free books away at Christmas. I said, you're right, that is a game changer. We will go bankrupt. Game changer, complete game changer. She said, no, I think we should give free books away at Christmas. I said, well, why? She said, we've done some research, and it turns out 32% of people who go to church on Christmas Day, it's the only time they go to church every year. She said, we let them go home empty-handed every year. She said, they only show up once a year, and we let them go home empty-handed every time they show up. She said, you always say books change our lives. I hate it when people quote me to me. Hate that. They say, you always say books change our lives. Well, she said, Matthew, if you really believe that, we should pass out free books to everyone on the way out of church at Christmas. And maybe that's all it takes. Someone gets a book, and that might be the spark that brings them back to church. I said, I don't know. She said, well, you just love books, and you love reading books, and you're always telling people to read books. Then she said something to me that caught my attention. She said, we've done some more research. This was in 2007. She said in 2007, only 1% of American Catholics read a Catholic book. 1%. She said in 2007, the average evangelical Christian read 6 books. On average. So we got their 600% to our 1%. She said, we live in a time when more people have questions about Catholicism than ever before, and less people have the ability to give answers to those questions than ever before. She said, we've got to get Catholics reading again. I said, all right, nice idea. I said, how would that be a game changer? She said to me, if every Catholic in America read one great Catholic book a year, Catholic Church in America would be completely different 10 years from now. And there it was. She had it. She'd absolutely nailed it. Key to a game changer has to be simple. Has to be implementable. You think about changing, transforming the Catholic Church in America, and you go out and try and get all the best minds to sit down and think about, all right, how will we transform the Catholic Church in America? And they will come up with the most dizzying set of complex plans that have no chance of being implementable, and here it is, she has it. You get every Catholic in America to read one great Catholic book a year, and you will completely change the Catholic Church in America. That's the power of a game changer. That was in 2007. In 2008, we did a pilot. She said, well, just let me do a pilot. I didn't pretend that she'd really won me over yet. I still pretended to be a little bit skeptical, to see if she could really make an argument. She said to me, well, just let us do a small pilot. I said, oh, well, what does that look like? She says, well, what we'll do is we'll take like 15 parishes, and after all the Christmas masses, we'll pass out a copy of Rediscover Catholicism to everyone who comes out of Christmas Mass in these 15 parishes. I said, well, why you got to give one to everyone? I mean, why don't you just give one each family? She said, Matthew, why are you so cheap? She said to me, well, what, if you give one to each family, then, the husband's got to wait for the wife to read it, or the wife's got to wait for the husband to read it, and the kid who's home from college for Christmas, he or she goes back to college, and then they won't read it. What's wrong with just one per person? Let's just give it a try, do a pilot. Oh, what's all I'm asking? I'm just asking, just let us do a small pilot. I said, well, what do you need from me to do a small pilot? I said, how many books you need for a small pilot? She said, 50,000. I said, 50,000 is not a small pilot. She said, there's almost 80 million Catholics in America. 50,000 is a small pilot. All right, settle down. So we gave her a 50,000 book. She did 15 parishes. Response was absolutely incredible, really overwhelming. I was so skeptical, I got to tell you, so skeptical. But the response was just incredible. So the following year, we let parishes get the books $2 a copy, and we shipped about 300,000 books for Christmas in 2009. In 2010, we shipped 600,000 books for Christmas. In 2011, last Christmas, we shipped 1.2 million books for Christmas, and and not just my book, Rediscover Catholicism, but now we've added 5 or 6 other books to the program. We've added some CDs to the program now because some people have said, well, we want CDs. We did the books last year. We want to do CDs this year. And, as David mentioned, this August we're going to release Rediscover Catholicism in Spanish. And I'm just so excited about that. And And that'll be in the $2 program for Christmas this year. But the reality is that books do change our lives. And, we've got these churches now giving out books at Christmas and Easter. We've got some churches that have done it every Christmas and every Easter since we started the program with a different book or a different CD. And it's really powerful to see the ways how something so simple can transform people's lives. Because the reality is that if you want a highly engaged parish, the only difference between a highly engaged parish and a different disengaged parish is highly engaged parishes have more highly engaged Catholics. Yes or yes? Yeah, it's the individual engagement of Catholics that is multiplied by getting together in one group that tends to make a parish highly engaged. And so, that's one of the things that is one of the game changers that we're working on at dynamiccatholic.com and a book program. But the other idea they came with is sort of interesting, and I think it's interesting as you think about what is a game changer for your life, what is a game changer for your parish, what is a game changer for your diocese. I think there's some real lessons in this. As Catholics, we're horrible at collaborating. What are we horrible at? Yeah, horrible at collaborating. We've got this sort of parochial system, so everyone's only interested in their own parish, And the bishops, of course, have got their own diocese, and then the priests have got their own parishes, and their parishioners have got their own parishes. And one of the things we do at Dynamic Catholic is these passion and purpose events. And they're like a one-day event on a Saturday. And what we do is we usually get 5 or 6 parishes to collaborate, to organize the passion and purpose event. Well, what happens is when you go and try and get 5 or 6 parishes to do anything, every single one of the parishes says, yeah, we'll be involved. We want to host it. Yeah, but we're going to host it at this other parish. Oh, no, we want to host it. We'll be involved, but we got to host it. Well, you can be a co-host parish, but we're going to have it. No, we don't want to be a co-host parish. We want to host it. It's got to be at our parish. Yeah, but there's only 150 seats in your church, and this church over here's got 2,000 seats. Doesn't matter. We want to host it. I mean, we're going to host it, right? At Dynamic Catholic, we got a joke that goes around the office. We got a joke that the second coming could come at another parish. People wouldn't go. It's not my parish. Yeah, but it's the second coming. Yeah, it's not my parish. I'll go when he comes to my parish. So we're not very good at collaborating, and game changers, one of the most important things in game changers is collaboration. So if you think about sort of any program that we do in the Catholic Church, there's about 15,000 parishes in the United States today. And if you think about, say, marriage prep, and you ask yourself, how many marriage prep programs are there in America? About 15,000. Because every parish does it different. Yes or yes? Yeah, because everyone thinks they can do it better, don't they? Now, does anybody in the room believe that there's any one parish in America that has enough money or enough talent to produce the best marriage prep program in the world? No. There's not a single parish in America that has enough money or enough talent to produce the very best marriage prep program in the world. If we want to have an outstanding marriage prep program, we're going to have to all get together and work on that. Yes or yes? But we tend not to. We tend just to do our own little thing, and people who are having world-class experiences with multimedia in the culture, they come and they experience, they think, this is crap. Literally, that's what they think. They think worse than that, but I can't say. I mean, crap's about the furthest I can go on the stage, So one of the people on my team said, we should build world-class learning systems for the key Catholic moments. I said, well, what are the key Catholic moments? He said, baptism, first confession, or first reconciliation, first communion, confirmation, marriage prep, RCIA. He said, we know we have a captive audience for these things every year. 1 million kids have confirmation every year, okay? Most of them bored to death want to shoot themselves after each lesson. Seriously, let's be honest with each other. It's important. If we're going to get to game changers, we've got to be honest with each other. We got these huge captive audiences in these Catholic moments, and we should own these moments. They should come out of there thinking there's nothing better than the Catholic Church. There's no philosophy in the world that has more to offer than Jesus and the church. They should come out of there saying, I've discovered the best way to live. But they don't. And they don't because we don't have world-class learning systems. What don't we have? And we don't have that not because we don't have the talent, and not because we don't have the resources, and not because there isn't an awful lot of people interested in bringing that about. But one of the reasons we don't have that is because one of the things we lack is collaboration. What do we lack? Collaboration. So one of the things we decided at Dynamic Catholic is that we're going to build programs for these major Catholic moments. And the first one we're working on is confirmation. And I got to tell you, it's been, yeah, we need it. It's been a real challenge to work on. You know, I knew it was going to be hard to create content and present it in a way that would really engage young people. But it's been at least twice as hard as I thought it would be. And I knew it would be hard from the outset. So pray for us in that. But the reality is we need game changers. We need them in our churches. We need them in our schools. We need them in our dioceses. We need game changers. And in order to do that, we've got to start thinking on a different level. But if we need game changers at the macro level, if we need game changers at the organizational level, that means we also need game changers for our own lives. Because unless we have game changers for our own spiritual lives, then we're probably not going to achieve game changers at an organizational level, at a parish level. And so what I want you to challenge you to think about this weekend while you're here at Congress is, you know, what are you going to get from one of these talks? What are you going to get from one of these experiences this weekend that's going to be a game changer for your life? And I'm going to give you a couple here so you can think about them. And then I'm going to answer some questions. I've never done that before. I'm going to answer some questions. So if you've got a question, I'm going to tell you when you can ask a question. You know, when you're in grade school, you were probably told there are no stupid questions. Okay, that was when you were in grade school. Okay? But I will take a few minutes and answer some questions a bit later. But we need some game changers for our lives. I'll take you through three pretty quickly here. But maybe you don't get one here today. Maybe you get one in a talk you're in tomorrow morning. Or maybe you get one in a session you're in on tomorrow afternoon. Or maybe at Sunday morning on Mass, just the homily. Maybe that gives you the game changer. But I want you to leave Congress, whenever you leave Congress, I want you to leave Congress this weekend with one game changer. What do I want you to leave Congress with this weekend? One game changer for you. Okay, that's one game changer, not 16 game changers. Because that's part of the problem when we think, okay, it's time for a game changer, we don't go for one, we go for 16. And of course, that's not possible, that's not sustainable, that's not implementable. Game changer number one. I want you to think about spending some more time with the Bible. Okay, because I was listening to these people preaching out on the sidewalks this morning. You see those people out there? Yeah, they think we never read the Bible. So we've got to work on that. They sent me in here to talk to you about that. So I want to talk to you, think about spending some more time with the Bible. Now, the beginning of every year, people decide, this year I'm going to read the Bible, right? And that's a disaster. It ends up a disaster a lot of the time. No, it's great intention and all, but why? Because what happens? Where do they start? Genesis. So what are we? We're in March. Right now they're in Leviticus. They want to shoot themselves, you know? So what was I thinking, you know? Why? Well, it's not even in chronological order, you know, very different forms of literature. And so where I want to challenge you to spend some more time in the Bible is in the Gospels. Spend some time in the four Gospels. You see, the reality is that I think who Jesus is more and more of a mystery in the modern world because we've sort of plaster coated Jesus to turn him into like a nice guy. You know, and I think in doing that, we diminish who Jesus really is. Because the truth is, you know, Jesus was walking along the road one day and he asked his disciples two questions. First question he asked them was, who do people say that I am? And they say, well, some say you're John the Baptist, come back from the dead. Some say you're Elijah or one of the other great prophets. And some say you're one of the other great prophets. And then he said to them, who do you say that I am? And Peter, I'm sure after a long, awkward, silent pause, said, you're the Christ. You're the Son of the living God. And imagine Jesus come here this afternoon, okay, and he stood here right now, and he said, who do people say that I am? And he asked us the same two questions, okay? Firstly, you've got to remember, you've got to keep in mind that the first one's a bit of a strange question, isn't it? You know, like if we got done here today, and then I was back at my booth, and you came along to get a book or a CD, and I said to you, who do people say that I am? That'd be a bit of a strange question, wouldn't it? If I said, oh, how did I do? Well, that's all right. How did I? Oh, you did all right. Great accent, you know. But if I said to you, who do people say that I am? That's a bit of a strange question, right? Why? Because Jesus is not the ordinary person. Ordinary questions don't really supply the answers we're looking for. So if Jesus came here this afternoon and said, who do people say that I am? Well, in the modern world, there'd be a pretty broad spectrum of answers, wouldn't there? And you've got a bunch of people who just want to reduce Jesus to a nice guy. Our culture just wants to reduce Jesus to a nice guy. You know, but truth is, I think if Jesus said to you, who do people say that I am? And you said, oh, they think you're a nice guy, he'd probably slap you. No, seriously, he would go temple, okay? No, he would. He definitely would. You know? And because Jesus isn't a nice guy. You know, people either love Jesus or they hated Jesus, okay? Nobody walked away from Jesus thinking, oh yeah, nice guy. You know, I'll get his next album, you know? And so when we look at what the other major world religions think about Jesus, you know, they're all really nice. They all say that Jesus was either great teacher or great prophet, which sounds like they're really nice, doesn't it? It sounds nice, sounds agreeable, all that sort of thing. But, you know, C.S. Lewis pointed out what they're really saying is Jesus is a liar. You know, because Jesus didn't claim to be a great teacher or great prophet. Who did Jesus claim to be? Claimed to be the Son of God. If he isn't the Son of God, he's a liar, you know, or a lunatic. Okay, plenty of asylums full of people who think they're the Messiah. Okay, so Jesus claimed to be the Son of God. All the other world religions, they say, oh, he's a great teacher, a great prophet. But that's actually incongruent. Because you can't be a great teacher and a liar. Okay, it's incongruent, right? It's inauthentic. You can't be a great prophet and a liar. These things are incongruent. You can't say, Jesus, gee, he was a great prophet. He's really confused about that Son of God business, but I got to tell you, he was a great prophet. It doesn't make sense, doesn't it? Even just, we took 30 seconds to explore it, and just even at the most basic, fundamental, cursory level, it just doesn't make sense. This is why we've got to start thinking about it a little bit more. So, the world thinks Jesus is either a nice guy or a great teacher or a great prophet. And if Jesus came here today and said, who do people say that I am? That's what we could report to him. If Jesus came here today, however, he would have the follow-up question. And the follow-up question is always presented in the personal. And the follow-up question is, who do you say that I am? And sooner or later, everyone has to answer the Jesus question. I call that the Jesus question. Sooner or later, everyone has to answer the Jesus question. Who do you say that Jesus is? Okay, not answering the question or avoiding the question is answering the question. But in order to really answer the question, I think we've really got to delve into understanding who Jesus is in a new way. And the truth is, like you read the Gospels, you discover very quickly, Jesus was a radical. What was Jesus? Jesus was a radical. If you haven't seen Jesus the Radical lately, you best take another look. Because Jesus was a radical. Okay? On any given Sunday, when Father stands up to the pulpit, on any given Sunday, just ask yourself this one question. If I applied just this one gospel, not the whole gospel, just the one message from this gospel, if I applied this message to my life completely, unreservedly, how much would my life change? Truth is that if you applied just one Sunday's gospel completely to your life would change radically. Yes or yes? Yeah, because Jesus is a radical. Jesus' teachings are radical. But what happens? Father stands up to read the gospel. There was a man, and he had 2 sons, and one son said, give me half your money. And then we tune out. We think, yeah, I've heard that one. Of course you've heard that one. You hear it every 3 years. You know, but the reality is that the teaching of every gospel reading is radical. And the truth is, Jesus wants to radically transform your life. He doesn't want to put a Band-Aid on here and tweak this and tweak. He wants to turn your life upside down. And mine too. You know, he wants to turn your marriage upside down. He wants to turn your parenting upside down. He wants to turn your career upside down. He wants to turn your personal finances upside down. He wants to turn your health and well-being upside down. He wants to turn every aspect of your life upside down. He wants to radically impact your life. Jesus is a radical, and almost every reading in the gospel points that radical nature out. You know, you think about it. Jesus said, love your enemies or pray for your enemies. You know, before Jesus came along and said, love your enemies, pray for your enemies, what was the teaching? Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. So when Jesus came along and said, love your enemies or pray for your enemies, love your enemies, pray for your enemies, that was a radical moment. You think about the evolution of spiritual thought. You think about the evolution of ethics and morals. Like you're right at the intersection of one of the biggest moments in history right there. When Jesus said, no more of this vengeance stuff. Love your enemy. Pray for your enemy. And it was a radical teaching 2,000 years ago, and it's still radical today. Why? Well, think about it. You come to church on Sunday, we pray for everybody, don't we? Think about it. You go to church, just take the Mass someday and look at all the prayers of the Mass and look at all the different people we pray for in the course of the Mass, all the different groups of people we pray for in the course of the Mass, and then think about the Mass being prayed all the time, every moment of every day, thousands of places all around the world we're praying the Mass. As a church, we are praying for the whole world constantly, all the time. Yes or yes? It's a powerful thing. It's an incredible thing when you really think about it. But you go through the course of the Mass, you think about all the people we pray for, all the groups of people we pray for, and then you got the prayers of the faithful, you know. We pray for the sick, pray for the almost sick, we pray for the dead, pray for the almost dead, we pray for the hungry, the lonely, the bored, the depressed, the loners, the leaders. We pray for everybody, you know. But I got to tell you, in a decade since September 11, I haven't heard a single prayer in any of our churches for Osama bin Laden. But that's the gospel. The gospel isn't pray for some imaginary enemy you might have somewhere in your future. Gospel's pray for Osama bin Laden. You know, and if your priest got up at church on Sunday and said, listen, we're going to offer Mass today for the repose of the soul of Osama bin Laden, what kind of reaction do you think he might get? People would walk out, right? Letters to the bishop and everything. You probably send a letter to the bishop on me now, you know? But that's the gospel. The gospel's radical. What is the gospel? Radical. And you know what the thing is that when we take the radical part out of the gospel, it loses its salt, it loses its taste, it loses its appeal, it loses its boldness. And people want boldness. Yes or yes? One of the things missing in the church, we don't have boldness. People follow boldness. People follow mission, and mission is bold. People don't follow maintenance. People want to work out how do we thrive. People don't want to work out how do we survive. So game changer number one. Read the Gospels for a whole year, 10 minutes a day, over and over. As many times as you get through the 4 of them. Just read them over and over for a whole year, 10 minutes a day. Complete game changer for your life. Game changer number one. Who wants that one? You? Okay, you can leave. You're done. Who wants to know what the other ones are? All right, number 2, confession. Who wants number 1 now? Yeah. Here's the thing, you know, nobody achieves greatness at anything without a coach. Okay, nobody achieves greatness at anything without a coach. And so one of the questions I got to ask you is, who's your spiritual coach? Or who are your spiritual coaches? Because we need spiritual coaching. We're not going to achieve greatness in the spiritual life without spiritual coaching. We're probably not even going to really grow in the spiritual life without spiritual coaching, so we need spiritual coaches. You know, this summer they're going to have the Olympics, Summer Olympics in London. You know, so all these athletes, the best in the world, they'll all show up to London, and who will they show up with? Their coaches. In the last 40 years, 10 Summer Olympic Games, how many athletes do you think came to the Olympics in the last 10 years, the last 40 years without a coach? 0. Not a single athlete in the last 40 years. Some of them come with 2, 3, 4, 5 coaches to coach them in different parts of their game. Now, these people are the best in the world at what they do. and still every single one of them has a coach. They're the best in the world at what they do, and still every single one of them, without exception, has a coach. Now, is anybody here the best in the world at being Catholic? Anybody like the best? Yeah, that's me. Anybody sitting there thinking, yeah, that's me. I'm like the best in the world at being Catholic, right? Now, most of us, we know we're not the best in the world at being Catholic. So if we're going to grow, if we're going to change, if we're going to develop, if we really are going to have a fantastic transformation, we need coaching. Who are you getting your coaching from? You know, one of the realities about the spiritual life, it might be the first truth of the spiritual life. We have to come to the realization that we don't see things as they really are. It might be the first truth in the spiritual journey. At some point, we have to come to the realization that we don't see things as they really are. You know, we all think we got 20/20 vision. We all think we got 20/20 vision in our marriage, and 20/20 vision in our parenting, and 20/20 vision as a pastor, and 20/20 vision as a teacher, and 20/20 vision in this. And certainly everyone in America has 20/20 political vision. I mean, just ask them, you know. We all see it exactly as it is, right? Wrong. We all think we got 20/20 vision. Truth is, we almost never see things as they really are. When I come to confession, half the time I need the priest to say, Matthew, you're being too hard on yourself. The other half the time I need the priest to say, Matthew, you're being too easy on yourself. I never see it as it really is. You know, because I got past experiences and I got prejudices and I got biases and I tend to overcompensate. Why? I'm a human being. We don't see things as they really are. So when I come to reconciliation, half the time the priest says to me, you're being too hard on yourself. The other half the time the priest says to me, gee, on this one, you're really being too easy on yourself. We don't see things as they really are. Think about it like this. Anybody play golf? Do you play golf here, California? Play golf? Seems like a great place to play golf. Has anybody ever had their golf swing like recorded, videotaped, put on a DVD? You had that? Yeah. And when you got the DVD back, did your golf swing look like what you thought it would look like? Of course not. I mean, in your mind, you're like Tiger Woods, you know? I mean, not like Tiger Woods, but I mean just... Your golf swing is like Tiger Woods, you know? And you get this DVD back, you think, that's definitely my body, but that is not my golf swing. They photoshopped somebody else's golf swing onto my body. I want a refund. No, see, the reality is we don't see things as they really are. In our minds, we swing a golf club in one way, but when you actually see how you swing the golf club, you're horrified. Okay, use that as a paradigm for everything we do. Okay, because the truth is that we don't see things as they really are. If you want to prove that, record yourself doing anything. Seriously, record yourself doing anything and then watch it back. You won't look like what you think you look like. You won't sound like what you think you sound like. You won't move like what you think you move like. We don't see things as they really are. And so one of the things we need in relationships, and one of the things we need spiritually, is someone from an external objective point of view to say, listen, you're not really seeing that as it really is. Have you thought about it in this way? And that's what happens in confession, in reconciliation. You know, you think about these priests. I mean, my heavens, they've given their whole lives just to help you become the best version of yourself, just to help you make that journey toward God. They've given their whole lives to serve us as spiritual coaches. That's powerful stuff, you know? You want a game changer? Get yourself to confession once a month for a whole year. If you can, try and go to the same priest. Tell the priest at the beginning, listen, Father, I'm not here for one of those drive-through ones that people like. You know, I'm going to try and come once a month for a year. I really like you to give me a bit of spiritual coaching. I know you can't talk to me for 45 minutes, but if you could just give me one thing to work on. I'm open. I'm like a sponge. I want to grow. I want to develop. Game changer. Confession once a month for 12 months. Who wants that one? Who wants more options? Number 3, okay. The central experience of Catholicism is the Mass. And what is the most common thing we hear said about the Mass? It's boring, right? We're used to hearing that from little kids. Mass is boring. I think the disturbing reality in the modern context is we're hearing that from more and more adults. More and more adults are saying Mass is boring. I don't get anything out of it. It's not relevant to my modern life. And that's a disturbing reality. You know, some kids are coming to their parents now, Mom, Dad, do we have to go to Mass? Mass is boring. Parents are thinking to themselves, you know what, kid, you're right. Mass is boring. But we're going to go together and be bored. It's a family tradition. All right, you think about need for a game changer? You think about a need for a game changer? We need a game changer when it comes to Sunday Mass. There's a central experience of the Catholic faith, and the reality is we're not getting it done. We need a game changer right here. We don't get something done here, we're done. Forget about it. Take a look over to Western Europe. That's what it looks like 20 years from now, unless we find a game changer for the Sunday Mass right now. What does Western Europe look like today? Italy, 11% attendance. France, 4% attendance. Germany, 9% attendance. Scandinavian countries, 1% attendance. Church in Ireland, imploding. Okay, that's what it looks like 20 years from now. I call it the European prophecy, unless we find a game changer right now for Sunday Mass. And we've been talking about it 20 years, 30 years, longer than I've been alive. Fix this, change this, new this, old that, modern this, old-fashioned that. We've been talking about it, we haven't fixed it. We have not. I'll give you a summary of what it sounds like when we talk about the Mass. Well, the problem with the Mass, those altar servers. I mean, have you seen some of the shoes those altar servers wear? I mean, that's the problem with the Mass. That's not the problem with the Mass. I don't care what shoes they wear, but could we teach them a little bit of reverence? There's no reverence anymore. I mean, that's the problem with the Mass. No, that's not the problem with the Mass. I'll tell you the real problem with the Mass. The problem with the Mass is the music. I mean, the music's too old-fashioned. I mean, it's in the 14th century. I mean, couldn't they come to the 16th century, you know? That's not the problem at our church. I mean, at our church, the music's too modern. They got drums, they got guitars, they got saxophones. Jesus didn't have guitars. That's the problem with the Mass. No, that's not the problem with the Mass. The problem with the Mass is the readers. I mean, half of the readers can't read, half of the readers can't see over the pulpit, and half of the readers can't pronounce half the words. And I realize that's three halves, but that's the extent of the problem. No, that's not the problem with the Mass. The problem with the Mass, our priest, he's too old, you know. I mean, he's a nice guy and everything, but he's 117, and they really need to let him retire. No, that's not the problem. Our priest is too young. I mean, he's 16 years old. I mean, that's not the problem with the Mass. I tell you the problem with the Mass. The problem with the Mass is the parking lot. I mean, where are people expected to park? I mean, you want everyone to come to church, but if everyone actually showed up, where the heck would they park? That's the problem with them. No, that's not the problem with the Mass. The problem with the Mass is that coffee they serve after Mass. I mean, where do they get that coffee? And when do they start brewing? Like Wednesday morning? Now, the problem with the Mass, you want to know the problem with the Mass? We're the problem with the Mass. We haven't worked out a game changer. We're the problem with the Mass. You know? 1,000 years from now, social scientists and philosophers, they'll get together to characterize our age, this time we live in. It'll take them about 5 minutes. They'll characterize our age as the age of the abdication of responsibility. Nobody's responsible for anything anymore. It's always someone else's problem, always someone else's fault, always someone else should be fixing it. We've got to start taking responsibility. And that starts with the Sunday Mass. You are responsible. You are response-able. You are capable of a response to the Sunday Mass. You know, and where do we start? You know? Trying to get rid of me? Want me to leave? I'm not finished yet. I'll give you a game changer. You walk through the church doors on Sunday, one simple request of God. God, show me one way in this Mass I can become a better version of myself this week. Because guess what? Every time you become a better version of yourself, your marriage becomes a better version of itself, your family becomes a better version of itself, your parish becomes a better version of itself, the church becomes a better version of itself, your nation becomes a better version of itself. Every time you grow as an individual, the ripple effect of that is enormous. That's the power of personal holiness. It's not designed just to stay personal. It actually has a ripple effect. You come through the church doors on Sunday, say, God, show me one way in this Mass I can become a better version of myself. And then listen. Every relationship improves when we start listening in a new way, on a new level. And when you meet people who have a really bad relationship, what's the first thing you discover? They don't listen to each other. Yes or yes? We got to start listening to God. Listen to music, listen to reading, listen to the quiet of your heart. And that one thing, it'll just strike. Better than that, go out, get yourself a Mass journal. I talk about having a Mass journal, and bring it to church with you on Sunday. And write down the one thing that God says to you in church. Write it down and date it. Spend the rest of the Mass praying about how you can live that one thing. But I'll tell you what will happen. You'll go out, you'll get your Mass journal, won't you? You bring your Mass journal home and you write down in the front cover, God, show me one way in this Mass my spouse can become a better version of himself this week. Sorry, mistake, sorry. God, show me one way in this Mass I can become a better version of myself this week. Then you'll bring it to church with you, and you'll actually be in the pews before the music starts. I know it's a radical idea, crazy idea. You'll actually be in the pew before Father gets to the altar. I know, crazy stuff, crazy, radical preaching. And you know what they call that? Early. Now that's the official term for that. That's called early. No wonder you people are always so confused when Father starts preaching about the early Christians. Early Christian? What kind of Christian is that, Father? I'm like a 5 minutes late Christian, Father. My friend Mike, he's like before the gospel Christian, And then my friend Susie, she's like a straight after communion Christian, Have you noticed how many straight after communion Christians there are? Like the place is half empty straight after communion. Why? Because all the straight after communion Christians, they leave straight after communion. I'm fascinated with these straight after communion Christians. I've been studying these straight after communion Christians. I've been studying them for quite a long time now, these straight after communion Christians. I've been trying to work out who's in charge of the straight after communion Christians, Who's organizing the straight after communion Christians? Who's their leader? Who's their founder? Somebody's got to be organizing these people, because this might be the most organized group of people in the Catholic Church. I've been trying to work out who's in charge of it, who's organizing these straight after, I've worked out who the founder of the straight after communion Christians is. It took me a while, but it's been there before me the whole time. It turns out Judas is the founder of the straight after communion Christians. Seriously. He's their leader. He's the founder, because look at it, it's right there in the Gospels. He was the only person to leave the Last Supper early. And when did he leave? Straight after communion. It's right there. It's right there.